a desire to do some changes in the health budget, based on preventatives
Sure.
and all that. And so there's that. And then
Nothing that
there's,
affects us, doesn't.
oh, no,
Okay, good, thank you. Thank you.
no, not at all. So it's that innovation fund and the amount for the health department, and then there's the police department piece, and, as far as more officers and how do you do that, and then a couple smaller issues, all of which I think are possible to deal with. I
No,
think so.
there's been some years it's been kind of,
Oh yeah, I mean there's some years where I remember, one of my first years, if it wasn't the first year, was Troy trying to go to a 3-man apparatus as opposed to a 4-man, which would have,
I do remember back
yeah,
in.
oh yeah, that one.
Not forgetting
It's
about
like, whoa, that one's a.
Well, no, thanks for keeping us so
Yeah, no, you should be fine.
keeps that emergency room open. So
I know, absolutely. So,
it's been, the flu season's ticking up. I just learned that yesterday or
Yeah.
Thursday. But it's going to tick up and then
it'll go. Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, we're a full house. All righty.
Always a room, or all the beds are full, right?
Right now. Hopefully not by Tuesday.
No, exactly. I'm with you.
How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well.
I'm William.
Hi, William.
Pleasure to meet you.
Nice to see you. I'm Scott
Absolutely.
Wagner.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
So I had a quick question for you. When I gonna come up to talk, I just have like a quick handout to give you guys. How would be the best way to go about doing that?
You can just hand it to me or one of our folks from the budget office.
Okay.
And they can disperse it, or you can just hand it to me and I'll disperse it.
Okay,
It's
cool.
fine.
Just
Yeah.
right when I'm coming up to talk, just be like, hey, I got a handout to give you guys.
That's quite all right. Yeah,
Okay.
no problem at all.
Sounds good.
We try. I mean those look like papers. You don't seem to be packing, so we're
No,
okay.
yeah, they're one paper just for everyone to look at.
Not a
so,
problem,
Awesome.
not a
man.
problem.
Sounds good.
All
Cool.
right,
Well,
all
I
right.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yep, absolutely.
You presenting today?
I am. Yes, sir. Mark that.
Yeah, Mark. Good luck. Well, you did so well last time that
I got thrown
they
back.
decided you got to throw back.
Yep.
Don't be a victim of your own success for too long. That's why I got mayor pro tem. So.
First rule of government, you never show confidence. You get rewarded with more money.
Fourth district forms going on, so this morning, one for 3rd and 4th district and another at 10 o'clock for mayoral candidates. So there's a couple stragglers. Well, when you're chair of of finance, you are running this
Yeah.
meeting, so
Yeah.
you can't really.
And Freedom had a
Yeah, they had a deal this morning from 9 to 11. That was right. So, like, well,
somebody didn't set the schedule.
well, yeah, someone missed it, but had we not had that snow or ice or whatever it was for the original date, yeah, we would have been okay. But yeah, so.
Well, thanks for rescheduling.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Well, it's kind of deep into the process, but
I
I'd
saw
like
your
to.
big sign on Main Street yesterday. Wow.
Yeah, that's a big one.
That's got to be the biggest mural sign in the city.
I think it is actually. Yeah, it's. When I saw it the first time, I just thought, wow, that is a really big
Do you
sign.
have any like that anywhere else?
We've got probably not that big, but still kind of oversized. We got a couple buildings that people wanted those big banners on. So one in the West Bottoms, and then we got another one somewhere else. I can't even remember, but that one's the biggest.
Well, there's somebody else that made the right choice this morning.
Yeah. I must have got the wrong dress code. Oh, man.
You're good.
Well, yeah, I'm good with this.
Looks good to me.
Yeah, that's all right. Thanks. We'll see you.
Good seeing you.
All right.
So,
let's see.
yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see who just go straight over to Seasonal Rogers or.
Well, I mean, it all depends on how late we're here. I mean, I got to
Yeah.
stay for the whole thing, but
Yeah.
and then you got the freedom breakfast going on at the same time. So
right now?
9 to 11.
Yeah, what's the plan?
Well, I kept getting people forwarding it to me, and I said, well, this is all well and good, but
Yeah.
I've got a budget hearing and an endorsement, so I've got two good reasons not to be there. So, anyway.
Anyway, start and then
Yeah, I'm gonna.
I'm gonna jump out at like
Yeah.
15 to 20 till.
Sure. Yeah. No, that's all right. Good morning, everybody. We'll get started here in the next couple of minutes. So if you can find your seats. Good morning. I'm living the dream, man. Let me tell you. Oh, all right.
Hey, Brad. What's going on? Just taking out some beansy on the side. Look around.
We obviously moved these chairs, so it wasn't so
Yeah.
obvious. So we just sit in them.
Well, we can move people around. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Whoever else comes can hold things up, or I don't know.
That's fine. We'll see who else does come. So.
Hey, how are you? Good. How are you?
All right.
Right. That's all you need.
Look at that. Look at that. Hey, we may have a few. Good. Okay. Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to our rescheduled budget hearing today. My name is Scott Wagner. I am the councilman of the 1st District at large, and I also serve as the chairman of our Finance and Governance Committee, which is why I will be running this meeting this morning. I appreciate everyone that's here. We have a few of our council members here, and I will just simply tell you that when you get this deep into election season, you have even more forums than what we would have had in the original date. And so we are missing, and I know that we will be missing some of our council members because there is a 3rd and 4th District councilperson forum. There's a mayoral forum that begins at 10 o'clock. So we're a little light, but I do know we've got at least a few other folks on the way. But we are here, and we look forward to listening to your comments. First, I might introduce our colleagues who are here, if they want to give a brief hello.
Yes, I am Lee Barnes. I'm the 5th District at Large City Council person.
And Scott Taylor, 6th District at Large. Just want to thank everybody for coming out on a Saturday morning. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And I note that our city manager, Troy Schulte, is there in the back, not holding up any wall today, so this is a very solid building. So thanks, Troy, for being here. I'd also like our staff members, whomever are here, if you just raise your hand and be recognized. Wonderful. And so, folks, I have them raise their hands in case there is a question or issue that you raised that might be best answered by those who are present. With that, just kind of briefly, how the run of show for today, we will have a presentation on our budget, which will kind of run through generally how it works, how it operates, what you can expect, at least with the submitted budget of this year. Then we will take your comments, and I think based on the number of people who have indicated that they wish to speak, we'll give you 3 minutes to speak. Our timekeeper is sitting right there with very colorful folders, so please observe those so that those who want to speak after you have the opportunity to do so. And then we'll end the day with just some quick comments from those of us who are up here. With that, I will go ahead and turn it over to Mark, who will discuss our budget for this year.
Good morning. My name is Mark Dapp at the Budget Office. I'm going to highlight just some of the key changes from last year's budget as adopted and some kind of major accomplishments that are included in this year's budget document. So we'll keep it brief so we can get to your comments, but this is just kind of an introduction to the budget as submitted to City Council. So the FY 19-20 budget is roughly $1.73 billion. This represents a 3.6% increase in expenditures. That's above the previous year's adopted budget. There is strong revenue growth that's mostly driven by the earnings tax. Earnings tax revenue collections have continued to grow, and in this adopted budget, for the submitted budget, they're projected to increase another 3% over the previous year. The largest increase in terms of type of expenditure occurs in public safety. The total increase above the previous year's budget is roughly $21.2 million. That's a 4.7% increase from the previous year. There's also increases to infrastructure funding. We're going to get into some of those details. And as submitted to the council, the budget is balanced right now. One of the major areas of spending in this year's budget document is capital improvements expenditures. There are a couple of different types of capital improvement expenditures that we're making in the FY 19-20 budget. First, there's roughly $231.4 million in what we call pay-as-you-go capital improvement spending. There's also $17 million that is earmarked specifically for street preservation. That number is a 70% increase over the previous year's budget. There's $48.4 million in the general obligation bonds, the Go KC bond program that are expensed this year, and another $26.1 million in PIAC, or the neighborhood conservation spending that is included in this year's budget. There's additional funding for parks and recreation maintenance and additional building maintenance for other departments throughout the city. Some additional program highlights beyond just the capital expenditures. We have included money in this year's document for the Campus for Animal Care operations. There's roughly $1.9 million included for the implementation of the Healthy Homes program. There is just over $1 million included for the American Jazz Museum, and I should note specifically $275,000 of that is for the implementation of the consultant study that was done. There's $1.4 million in right-of-way mowing that we're increasing above the previous year. Another $360,000 in pavement marking. This year's budget as submitted includes an increase in snow and ice removal and additional fleet replacement within Public Works. Specifically, something we think should be noted is $50,000 of money that's earmarked for the Enhanced Flood Warning System program. So outside of kind of department operations, there are additional program highlights specifically in $5 million that's going towards an increase in conventions. That includes the Auditorium Plaza Garage, the Convention Hotel Bartle Kitchen, and other expenditures related to that facility. This year's budget, as submitted, maintains the health safety net funding from the previous year's budget, and also includes 6 new park ranger positions in the Parks and Recreation Department. As you may be aware, as far as particular departments for the city go, those that draw from the general fund, the police department is the largest, and their budget in the fiscal year 1920 is roughly $262 million. This year's budget includes a full-time cost of the 24 additional patrol officers, and 15 dispatchers that were added in the previous year's budget. Included for this is $500,000 in the foundation match for technology from the KCPD Foundation grant. There's another $500,000 for in-car cameras to be equipped for the patrol, and there's another $300,000 earmarked towards the One IT program, which is a consolidation of city IT and police IT infrastructure and software. Continuing on the theme of public safety departments, the Kansas City Fire Department is the next largest department at roughly $188 million total budget. The wages and benefits themselves increase roughly $6.2 million over the fiscal year 18-19 budget. Alone, workers' compensation is another $5 million increase. And so those are the second largest departments compared to the police department. This is a timeline of where we are in the legislative process. Back on Valentine's Day, February 14th, this document was actually submitted to council. We've had public budget hearings, we've had business session meetings where we've reviewed the submitted document, and the document is slated for adoption on March 21st. This is our fourth of the public budget hearings, and we would like to thank you again for coming out. We've rescheduled this from a previously postponed date, but we can tell you that the feedback that we get at these sessions is something that council takes very seriously, and they strive to incorporate as much of that feedback as possible with changes that they make to the document. I just want to highlight a couple of tools that we have available that are on our website. The first is Open Budget KC. And this is essentially a tool that allows you to go into the budget and view it at a very broad level or at a very detailed level, all depending on what you want to do. So if there's a particular program or you want to see how much money we're spending in a particular area, you want to see how much more money we're spending on a particular program compared to previous years, Open Budget KC will allow you to kind of dive into that and drill down, and makes it a very kind of simple and streamlined process for learning more about a particular issue. So that's available on the website. It has this submitted budget and data loaded to it, so that is live. There is another tool that we have, which is the Balancing Act, which is also available to allow you to create your own submitted budget. You can change expenditures as you see fit. You get it to balance, and you can literally submit that to council for consideration and review. Finally, we have an online engagement and participation forum, which is KC Momentum. So if you know of anyone who would like to have attended today but couldn't make it, you can direct them to this website where they can essentially have this exact same experience, where they can offer feedback and review some particulars of the budget and submit that to council in an electronic way. So that's a great tool that we have available. So finally, thank you again for coming out. We have any number of social media handles that you can contact us. If you ever have any questions and about anything in particular, feel free to contact us below. But I will turn it back over to Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Mark. I will be calling names out based on your order of signing, and if you have identified that you did wish to speak. So we'll go through this list. However, if you didn't sign up or you've changed your mind that you do want to speak, we'll give you that opportunity here at the end. Remember that we have our timekeeper who will be sitting right next to you as you're standing there. Please observe those colorful folders because there may be someone after you, and we want to make sure that you all have the right amount of time. So I'm going to call the first three names, and if you'll just kind of get in line as I call you, that would be great. The first is Brad. You made sure you were here first, so good job. So it's Brad, then Kate Hoppy, and then Terrence Nash. And you'll have 3 minutes.
Very good. I'm from the 6th District. Three things to address. 3 years ago, the City Council began transferring funds from the Water Department into the general fund. And they're doing so again this year. Each year, the amount transferred from the Water Department increases. And I guess by my reading of the city charter, funds brought into the Water Department are supposed to be spent on Water Department activities. And I guess I'm concerned that it's going to the general fund. Item 2, the city auditor's office headcount has decreased from 19 to 10. They have 3 more people on the verge of retiring. I feel as a consequence, the number of audits has decreased to 5 or 6 per year, and frankly, I consider the audits they're performing now are almost trivial in nature because of the lack of resources. And finally, in the budget, there's a line item that shows that $44 million estimated is not being brought in as income. That's an inelegant way of putting it because of financial incentives granted in previous years. This includes sales tax waivers, earnings tax waivers, and of course property tax waivers. And all of these have been granted with absolutely no strings attached. And I bring up these items, I feel they're all connected because the City Council has continued to tell us there are absolutely no funds available for affordable housing. And I would like the City Council to perhaps reconsider your priorities of always putting the developers first in line versus putting the citizens in need first in line. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Kate.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So Kate Hoppy, constituent of the 4th Council District. I also serve as a Kansas City, Missouri Health Commissioner. Good to see you again. So as we know, this is the last public meeting before you as an elected council go back and make the final decisions on the city's budget. And so when you leave here today, what I'd ask you to think about are the people in your lives who you know and love who have benefited from having access to public health services. That would include anyone in our city who has ever eaten at a restaurant and not come down with food poisoning. It would also include anyone who has been vaccinated or vaccinated their children and not been diagnosed with the measles. It also includes anyone who has avoided being part of an outbreak like syphilis or been able to get diagnosis and treatment because their local health department had sufficient funding to conduct outreach in the community and get that outbreak under control. It also includes anyone who has felt safe walking down the street and not been a victim of crime or violence because an evidence-based initiative like Aim for Peace has been working in that neighborhood. Without a fully funded health department, our community, our city's budget, our overall economy won't be able to thrive. And without a fully funded health department, that pie you all have talked about growing won't be able to grow to its fullest potential because the health department brings in a lot of funding to this community, and part of that is needing those matching dollars to be able to go after those big grant opportunities. And I think also the health department probably brings in more funding to this community than any other department that we have. So please restore the proposed cuts to the health department and the innovation fund. These handful of dollars really go a long way to protecting the health of our community, of people who would not otherwise have equitable access to services, and of the people, I would argue, in your lives and all of our lives that we know and love. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Terrence Nash, followed by Craig Moria.
Good morning, Terrence Nash, 6th District. And with the Friends of Red Bridge, I'd like to talk about Red Bridge Homes to Warren L. KC budget, page 413. The issue, we're not against any improvements to Red Bridge Road or anything, but the problem we have is there was only one community meeting on April 26, 2018 from 5 to 7 o'clock. And no council persons were attending. Difficult for residents to attend, most getting home from work. It was a scripted meeting. The city only offered one plan, 4 lanes. No town hall meetings to discuss with 6 district council persons. Holmes Road to Blue River Road is a 3 lanes with a 1 lane each way and a turn lane. 135th Street at Martin City is a 3-lane road, and that everybody touts about how great that is. Prairie Village changes Mission Road from 4 lanes to 3 lanes from 75th Street to Prairie Village Shopping Center at 71st Street. Overland Park is in the process of implementing a road diet on College Boulevard, Kansas City Star, June 21st, 2018. There has been discussions in the Red Bridge area plan of a road diet for 85th Street from 4 lanes to 3 lanes. This money is from the GO bonds to be used in all districts. If the city wants money, if the city wastes money on a poor plan, there is less money for all other projects in the city. The city is instead of reducing and eliminating future costs for maintaining islands and curves, increases future cost. The other issue is no islands equals no panhandlers, which is another benefit. Islands are obstacles for efficient snow removal. What is the cost of a basic 3-lane plan versus the city's so-called preferred plan? The city and the Parks Department are underfunded, and this plan is just malarkey. So we just believe that there has been a lack of transparency and fiscal responsibility on this project. And from the campaign literature that when I ran against Kevin McManus, he talked about being transparent and fiscally responsible in government, and this doesn't fit the criteria. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Craig, followed by Nancy Phelps. Good morning.
Morning. My name's Craig Maria. I'm a South Kansas City resident, also a member of the Friends of Redbridge. I'd like to add a couple of things to what Terrence said about that project on Redbridge between Warnell and Holmes. The publicity for that meeting was very poor. There was a mailing done to a few of the residents in the area, and of all the people I know, I think Terrence was the only one to receive a postcard in the mail about that. Also, I believe that Councilman Wagner requested a second meeting. The meeting was last April. I think Councilman Taylor, sorry, you're Councilman.
Yeah,
well, the two
but
Scotts.
I was tracking with you just so we're.
Yeah, I was looking at this guy, right? So.
Let's think of the second meeting. No,
by the way, you're labeled there as Kevin McManus.
Yeah, no, I know.
Okay.
Working at
but
that.
I don't believe there was any follow-up meeting. But my main comment is on PIAC funding of $600,000 for right-of-way acquisition, also on Red Bridge Road from Blue River to Montgall, which I'm one of the homes that fronts onto Red Bridge Road there. And there has never been any public discussion of this project. You probably remember the project between Holmes and Blue River, which included the new bridge, and there was public discussion about that project. But for the rest of Red Bridge Road, we've never really had a public discussion. There's just no civic governance about this at all. So I think we need to examine the whole of Red Bridge Road from Blue River to Blue Ridge before we proceed on that project. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Nancy, followed by Rihanna Desalich. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Nancy Phelps. I'm the president of Marlboro Community Coalition. It was a really nice commute this morning, so thank you so much for being over in our area of the woods. Marlboro Coalition, it represents a community of about 10,000 people. We're a diverse and vibrant neighborhood east of Troost, right over here in South Kansas City. So I can talk all day about our neighborhood. I have a whole tribe of people from our board here this morning that came out to talk about an important project at 81st and Troost and how it relates to the PIAC process. So as you're all aware, through the city's consent decree with the EPA, there were a number of locations identified in Marlboro for green infrastructure sites. And this was an incredible opportunity for our neighborhood. And we worked really hard to engage the community to see if there were ways that we could work together with those green infrastructure sites to build out additional neighborhood revitalization. So we received a PIAC grant for a community engagement process. And the result of that was our neighborhood saying, putting a playground at the site at 81st and Troost would serve thousands of kids in our neighborhood, surrounding neighborhoods, and especially there's a major low-income apartment complex right next door. Unfortunately, that PIAC request for the playground was not funded in 2016. And instead there was a city department that received funding for a project in Marlboro that our neighborhood wasn't even aware of and did not support. So thankfully, a funding solution was proposed in 2017. We thought it was a done deal. We actually put a sign at the corner of 81st and Troost that says, coming in fall of 2017. And unfortunately, it's now March of 2019, and that sign is still there. So we've pursued grants for major funders, including the U-Haul Foundation, to put additional dollars of investment there. This project is so important to our neighborhood, to our children, to the entire Troost corridor for what it communicates about the priorities of our city. Thank you. I will try and wrap this up. Thankfully, we have a few city leaders that we've reached out to that are working with us to try and find a funding solution. And we are so thankful for that, and we really appreciate the dedication and support of all of you. However, and the reason I'm up here is because I believe this is much larger than just a playground east of Troost. And my goal is to advocate for neighborhoods across Kansas City who might find themselves in our shoes someday. So I have 30 seconds. That's my tribe. A whole bunch of them are still in bed this morning, but we brought the ones that have kids because we're talking about a playground. We were here to advocate for transparency and accountability and communication in the PIAC process. We're asking that with the approval of this pending budget, that you help neighborhoods and citizens better take advantage of this important tool. So we're genuinely appreciative of your service to our city. We know you often have a very thankless job and do a lot more than any of us ever know. And so we're here to support and work with you and find ways to work together. And now I have to stop. So thank you very much. We'll meet you on the playground when it gets done. Thanks.
Thank you very much, and thanks to all of you from Marlboro who were here today. Rihanna. There you
Hi,
are, right there.
my name is Rihanna Deselich, and I'm here to represent, excuse me, let's rephrase that. I'm not here to represent the Neighborhood Tourism Development Fund, but I am a member. I am the 5th District appointee. I would like to share some information. For those who don't understand what NTDF is, it's basically it was a ordinance in the state that developed a fund for tourism. And tourism is a very broad term, but anyway, 7.5% of the hotel, when you stay in a hotel, you are taxed 7.5%. 10% of that goes into the Neighborhood Tourism Development Fund. So I just want to share with you, I'm going to use the 2018 numbers. The 2018 numbers show that we had 146 requests, which is a total of $3,800,000, let's just basically say $4 million. In the fund, the appropriation was $1.5 million. And so we were only able to award $1,200,000 to save a little reserve for the other quarters, or for the next year. We just finished our annual. We encouraged most of our applicants to come to the annual because there was no fourth quarter awards. We were out of money by then. So for this year, 2019-2020, we just finished our annuals. We have about $200,000 to save for the rest of the year. So that's quarter 2, quarter 3, and 4. So we basically are taking applications for April 15th for the second quarter. Basically, we don't have enough money to give out to all these people and all these great events and groups that are starting fun things, exciting things, and bring tourism either within our city or from out of our state. So I just wanted to encourage the board to somehow advocate for more money going into NTDF. All right.
All right.
Oh, one last thing. We have a matrix we've been using for 2 years now. You probably have heard about that from some of your constituents. It's really working out for us. I'm very proud that we were able to start that. And if you have any questions, be sure and ask us about that.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. Next, I have Paul Tyler, followed by William Gormley, and then Peter Hughes. Good morning.
Good morning. Paul Tyler. I live in the 4th District. I'm actually here today to thank you. I was very excited to see in the transmittal letter for the budget Kansas City being described as a thriving hub of innovation, creativity, and commerce. A decade ago, we might have looked at that as an aspirational statement. I think now it's actually a fact. We really are a thriving hub of innovation, creativity, and commerce. And to a large part, that's due to things that City Council and the mayor and the city manager have done in the last several years. Do you have support for projects both large and small? Everything from the ambitious public-private partnership of open spaces to support for small business loans for artists. Thank you, Councilman Taylor, for that. Helping them grow their efforts to be independent entrepreneurs. From the renewal of the Crossroads Arts PIEA property tax abatement program, which has helped keep some artistic flavor and integrity to our rapidly growing Crossroads District. To support for the, excuse me, to support for the designation of Kansas City as one of UNESCO's Creative Cities of Music. That's important. All of these things really matter, and they have helped keep Kansas City in the national spotlight, and have really made a big difference. And so with all of that in mind, I just want to say that I'm personally very enthusiastic about the fact that this budget includes the addition of a position in the Office of City Manager to manage the city's 1% for Art program and help staff the Municipal Art Commission. That's a really important move, and I'm really glad to see it happening. Your continued commitment to and support for implementing the Arts Convergence Plan has really made a difference. And I just want to tell you how much the arts community and the creative community appreciate that ongoing commitment. Sometimes it involves tough decisions, but we really do want to say thank you for what you've done.
Thank you.
Before my time starts, I have a couple handouts that I'd like to give the council, if I may approach
Yeah,
and provide those.
that's fine.
Sorry, my color credit only goes so far.
No, that's fine. That's cool. That's good.
Thanks.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is William Gormley, and I assist in coordinating the food and nutrition programs at the YMCA here in Kansas City. I'm here today to talk about why decision makers, like you, must take a step back and take some time to truly look at the root causes of the issues happening in our communities. If we really want to cure the epidemic of violence in our community, we must approach it from a preventative lens rather than a reactive one. Do you believe that removing the funding from the health department will accomplish this? I believe that this will only make the problem worse and undo all the work that has already been done. If violence prevention is not funded, you will be eliminating the only evidence-based health approach to preventing violence in our community. The funding that you are taking away from the health department is used not only to assist families in times from losing a loved one, but did you know that that funding is also used to identify what families need to be healthy? For example, Aim for Peace, the violence prevention project funded through the health department, provides families exposed to violence resources to access healthy food options through the referral networks such as the food programs that we offer at our YMCAs. These food programs serve food to families who would otherwise not have many other options. As you can see, we have many issues currently facing our community. All are important and deserve to be heard, but this one issue I believe is not getting the attention that it deserves. This issue pertains to the fact that 1 in 6 children in Jackson County does not know where their next meal will come from. Statistics like these are why the health department needs to be funded to its full capacity. But I would like to ask the council a couple of questions now. Do you all follow the laws? Of course we do. Maybe speed every now and then, or accidentally run a stop sign. It happens, right? But then something happens. Budget cuts happen. You lose your job, and you're now no longer able to feed your family. Let me ask you, what lengths would you go to make sure that your family had enough to eat? I know that if it was me, I would do what absolutely ever it took to make sure that my family had enough. But imagine being a parent and having to ask yourself that question every single day. What am I going to do to feed my family? Do you remember the last time that you were hungry? Not just a little bit hungry, but hours and hours with having nothing to eat. How did that make you feel? Well, if you're anything like me, you might get a little hangry. You may get a little more irritable, maybe a little more easily frustrated. Now imagine being a child where this is your daily life. You wake up, you go to your refrigerator only to find that it's empty. So you grab your book bag and you start walking to school. You do your best to try and learn and grow, but your stomach is growling from having nothing to eat. This becomes extremely difficult. Not only is that child not getting what it needs for proper development, but it also needs much more. That child is also much more likely to engage in a crime that will allow him simply to meet their basic needs. This is the reality of way too many youth in our communities. A famous developmental psychologist, Abraham Maslow, said that everyone has a hierarchy of needs. He created a pyramid that I provided to you today to display this hierarchy and said that each level of need must be met to move to the pyramid of human development. Maslow says that when an individual is deprived of a basic need, there is an increased amount of economic, physical, mental, and emotional stress that the individual experiences, often leading to stunted growth of human development. But that when a large group is denied their basic needs, including access to food, clean drinking water, and shelter, the marginal benefit to follow the laws are significantly diminished.
William, I need you to wrap up.
While the incentives to break the laws are increased. Let me finish that one more time. The marginal benefit to follow the laws are significantly diminished while the incentives to break the laws are increased. Council, we must meet the basic needs of our families and our community. And until we do that, the incentives of following these laws will never matter as much to that parent as feeding their family as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Peter Hughes, followed by Stacy Johnson Cosby.
Peter Hughes, 3331 Troost Avenue, Center City neighborhood. I want to talk about one thing today, and that is bicycles and the bike plan. Right now, there's a bike plan that's going to come before the council in the next few weeks. The number is between $350 and $400 million to build bike lanes in our city. I'm a bike rider. When I pulled in this morning on my bike, I'm the only bike out there. Okay, so I'm a bike rider. I'm opposed to that plan as it's currently drafted. First of all, $400 million is a lot of money. I don't need to tell you that, but there's, in that budget or that plan, there are protected bike lanes, which basically means there are cars or buffers in the street, and then the bike lanes are on the curb side of that buffer. 50 to 60% of that in that plan is going to be buffered bike lanes. Now I'm going to tell you a couple of anecdotal stories. There's an attorney in town that I know, very physically fit guy. He lives in Brookside. He rides his bike around, comes out from Brookside, goes around Swope Park, and goes home. So he's athletic. He's an athletic guy. A while back, they painted bike lane striping on Gregory Boulevard. What he found was that because that stripe is there, the cars no longer drive on that lane near the curb, and they no longer sweep the trash off the street the way they used to. So now, instead of riding in that marked bike lane, he has to ride with the through traffic because there's so much trash and broken glass that if he rides in that lane, he gets a flat tire. Anecdote number 2, they put through a bike plan on Armour Boulevard without consultation with the neighborhoods that surround it. I'm active in the Center City neighborhood. We weren't consulted. The Hyde Park people weren't consulted. I'm hearing from the Northeast News that there's a plan now for Gladstone Boulevard. Those folks weren't consulted. So I'm going to ask that you folks send this plan back to staff. And by the way, in that plan, they stated that Armour Boulevard was a neighborhood friendly, a neighborhood, that the neighborhoods were involved in it. That was not true. The neighborhoods were not involved in the formulation of that plan. That plan needs to go back to staff for a redraft and a hard look at whether we really can afford the maintenance and the construction of these protected bike lanes. Because right now, on Armour Boulevard, we had leaves there. They did maintain them once the neighbors complained. They cleaned it 4 times this fall with a truck of 4 guys on foot, 1 guy driving the truck, a big expensive vacuum cleaner, and a supervisor that was working with them. So that's 6 people, probably $50,000 to $100,000 worth of city equipment cleaning the bike lane just on Armour from Paseo to Broadway. We can't afford that, not on hundreds of miles of bike lanes. Send that plan back to staff and ask them to redraft it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Stacy Johnson Cosby, citizen of South Kansas City, and also happen to be a candidate for City Council. Here for 2 topics. Number 1, public safety. Again, there are 15 firefighters that are in the budget, and I think we need more because we need to control help them control their overtime hours. And number 2, police officers. With the high amount of crime, and we see it on the news daily, we hear about it, and it is a perception that surrounds our city. We currently have 0 police officers in this budget, and I think that number is unacceptable. And knowing that there's a timeline that it takes for the officers to get through the academy and training, if we have 0 now, I know we had 24 last year, but if we have 0 now, we're going to have a year where we have a gap. There are already not enough officers, and then to have 0, I think is just, it sends a bad message. Having more offers us the opportunity to make sure that criminals know that the police will be out and about in their communities on the streets. And number 2, once the crimes are committed, there'll be enough officers in place to solve those crimes. And so maybe they'll think twice about committing them if they know that they could end up in jail. And so I ask that you please put more police officers in the budget this year. And then the second thing I'd like to talk about, last weekend, we had a room full of entrepreneurs and small business owners. And I'd like to reinforce what Ezzie Redwood said, that we need more than $150,000 in the budget to support those small businesses. His statistics shows that there's a 300% return on investment for that $150,000. So I say we need to invest more. And to follow up on the crime that was talked about earlier and what I just said, those people in the neighborhood who need the jobs, those jobs are most likely to come from small businesses. 65% of our new jobs come from those entrepreneurs with their small businesses. And those are also the small business owner are the people that are more likely to hire people who the major corporations won't hire, which may include people with criminal records. They will be more willing to give them a second chance. And so along those lines, please support small businesses and entrepreneurs and public safety. Thank you.
Thank you. Brenda, come on down. You've probably never heard that before. No. Good morning.
Good morning. I am Brenda Cum. I am the co-chair of the Kansas City, Missouri Board of Health Commissioners. I chair alongside of Councilwoman Canaday. I am from the 6th District. Councilwoman Hall also serves on the commission. And I have 3 minutes, right? 3? Okay, great. I normally I've started with humor coming up here with this, but we're kind of winding it down. This is some serious business. And I'd like to just reiterate that we're here to ask for you to restore the $1.2 million to the health department, along with the restoration of the funds to the Health Innovation Fund, which is part of the health levy dollars. With these cuts, we will see the impacts. We are already woefully underfunded in public health. From the state, the numbers are ridiculous. It's amazing that we're actually not going backwards and that we're able to keep up. And I do credit the staff of the health department and the leadership of Dr. Rex Archer with us not falling so far backward with the way that we're underfunded. Just to give you some numbers and put it in perspective for people in this room, the state of Missouri, first of all, nationally we're underfunded, but the state of Missouri, we rank last. We are the last state. That's it. They rounded it up to 6, so it doesn't look so pitiful. We're actually at $5.72, which is ridiculous. The next closest state, I think, is 9. States around us, Kansas, $12. Nebraska, $45 per person per capita. Iowa, $70. Oklahoma, $41. These are all conservative states, and yet they're doing so much better than we are. So what does that mean for us here in Kansas City from the state? This is how much funding we get per each person, okay? 30 cents. Here's your 30 cents per person per year for funding for public health. If we don't have local support from you guys, our local legislators, saying that we're a priority, then it's not going to be a priority for the state. We have zero hope of getting additional funding at the state level. They are going to look to you first. The other people that are going to look to you, because I've been a funder and I've had to ask for funding, and funders look to see who cares about you. If they look at our local legislators and look to you as our council, and they don't see support in making health a priority, we're not pulling in national dollars. We're just not gonna do it. So I need you guys to help us take a smaller piece of the pie as we move forward. Now, the funding of health in this city and of our citizens should not be a popularity contest. I shouldn't have to fill this room with people to get your support for health. It should be strategic. I'm a professional in this area, and the funding of health for our citizens should be a strategic plan, not every year having to worry about what we're going to do. And so I'm asking as we move forward to let's go in that direction, okay? I really thank you for your support. Restore those cuts. Thanks.
All right,
Bye-bye.
thank you. Thank you. That takes us through everyone who had signed up to speak. However, if you would like to speak, this is your opportunity to. Come on up.
And Mr. Chair, could I just say something real quick? I need to
Sure.
run to, and I know you do too, but I'm gonna make a quick comment on one item in the budget. I've said it at every hearing, but would like to try to find more funding for additional police officers so we can have more community policing. If there, we did add 24 last year. Appreciate working with you on getting that done. That was an increase over what was proposed. But the police chief did propose 30 total. I'd like to at least try to get up to that point where he requested that amount. So that's my request. I apologize. I've got to leave to get over to the Samuel Rogers Center.
Mhm.
I will see you over there in a few minutes.
You may. We'll see how this goes. All right.
Yes.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much, Councilman Taylor. Yes, go right ahead.
Good morning, I'm Patty Sosa. I am in the 4th District, and I'm also a health commissioner with the health department. Mostly everything has been said and is said very well, but I wanted to draw your attention that it's easy to overlook how many things affect health. So if you just take the headlines from the last few months, when we talk about STD outbreaks, we talk about violence, and we talk about early childhood education, all of those things are health related. All of those things come through the health department, and I'm just here to ask to fully reinstate the funding for the health department. Thanks.
Good morning.
So you know me, I'm multifaceted, and I'd like to say welcome to Alicia. I know you came in, and I appreciate the fact that you're here instead of at Freedom.
Oh, even though we know who you are.
Oh, I'm Jean Helene Davis.
Yes, thank you.
And I live in the 5th District.
Mhm.
Okay, so my big push this morning, and I know Mr. Williams is here, is to ask that contractors come before neighborhoods when they have a project and get an approval or a denial from the neighborhood of what their plan is before they go out and go through the process in planning and zoning to go all these architectural steps and everything else, because sometimes they don't fit into the neighborhood. We had one project in 4963 where a developer went through many thousands of dollars, and we did not know about the development until they were all ready for final acceptance or denial. by that time, I understand council and planning and zoning saying we need to pass this, but I have 4 elderly neighbors that have 30% loss of sunshine in their backyard, and in this weather that we've been having, snow and ice and everything else coming down the alleyway that they have to use to get in and out of their garages. Not a good thing. Had we been able to stop it in the beginning, we could have flip-flopped the building from the back of the lot to the front of the lot. I was able to stop a 4-story building of market rate apartments on Troost because we could get in the beginning. We are now accepting a 2-story, less than market rate, because we don't want gentrification in our neighborhoods. I also am anti-pre-K because if we're going to give money and have a new tax, we need to think about the children that are in our schools now that aren't getting the education that they need, that come out not reading well, not writing well, not doing their math well. Maybe they can't be fast-tracked into college. Maybe we need to have trade schools more apparent for them and programs so that they can get a job, so that they can be productive. And I want to restore funds to the health department because most people don't realize how many programs come out of the health department. It's not just health, it's violence, it's safety. Even though safety is a different public budget, there's so many programs that come out of health. We need to keep health going. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Oh, Teresa. Good morning.
Good morning. How you all doing?
Good.
And I want to thank you all for all you do, as well as our city manager.
Oh, and tell everyone at home who you are.
Oh, I'm Teresa Perry, Share the Love House, community advocate, NAACP. I'm going to leave it at all that because I can keep going on and on. But I'm here on behalf of thank you for some of our people in Kansas City, my sister and brothers that just spoke, because like you know, you all know me. I'm praying we can restore more money to the health department because mental health is off the hook in Kansas City. I have to cut off my phone at night, and I don't like cutting my phone off on my brothers and sisters in Kansas City. I don't know if you know how many children's suicides. I have had 3 parents call me this week. Children wanting to commit suicide. They call me just so they can know where to go. People don't have the resources on where to go. So thank God I got some people help me get some funding so I can get, you know, the paperwork done in order to get it out to the community, but I'm not touching everywhere. So like I told you all, we kicked off a thing called SOS Help Me. But yes, I need the health department because I have to send them there for suicide. I had a young girl we buried last week. He broke her back, her legs, her neck, everything. So I don't know if you all know about that, but yes, I went and spoke at her funeral last week and look up her young baby, had to tell the story. So I have to send her young baby to them so now that she can get help. So it's different things that, and then I have some people out here contemplating murder. I'm trying to catch them before you even think about that because it's not that deep. But it goes back to a lot of things that were said here today. If they had the job, the shelter, a lot of stuff that starts at the health department, if they had that help, then hopefully that would detour a lot of stuff. I have to talk with you, Scott, about it. You, Mr. Kennedy, please, Lee, I pray if we don't do nothing else, we put some funding back that way. Get some jobs out here for everybody. Make it where everybody can own the house or own an apartment without getting put out or evicted. If you take care of the basic things, then hopefully that would help. Now, on the flip side of things, this is for me. Back to the bike lanes. I live on Boulevard now. I can't park on the Boulevard now because of the bike lane. Love everybody, ride the bike, that's good. But please come ask me, I want to be able to park in front of my house. Is that against some type of law or my taxes? I mean, I'm paying taxes too. I can't park in front of my house, and I don't see that many people riding a bike in front of my house. Somehow we need to make it, you know, where it's okay for everybody. But I have no parking in front of my house, so some of my seniors are already complaining that come visit me, that I take them places, and that we can't park in front of our house because of the bike lane. So I think we do need to, revisit that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Go right ahead.
My name is Harold James. I'm in the 4th District, and I've just got a couple of comments and then a couple of questions. I've spent 40 years in corporate America. If I had a survey, and I'm looking at your satisfaction surveys, 14 categories, only 4 had a score in excess of 60% of satisfaction. If I was employed by a company or owned a company with that level of satisfaction, I'd be out of business. So we really seriously need to look at what's going on and look at these scores and decide what it is we need to do to get this back on track, because this affects everything everyone in this room is talking about. That leads to a question. I see that you got the key measures of success in the budget plan for this coming year, but there's no mention of what the goals are. What are those goals? How can you actually achieve anything and hold anyone accountable if there are no specific goals? Okay, if you can't measure it or you don't measure it, you can't hold people accountable. So that's my first question. Then my next question is, somebody said they had an easy commute over here. I didn't. 63rd Street, Ward Parkway, Gregory, we've got battlefields out there, folks. I mean, we're to the point where we have less pavement than we do pothole. And I applaud the fact that we're going to spend, what, 70% more on street preservation? But we're starting from this low. If we don't do something, we're going to have the economy falling apart. People don't want to come here. It's an embarrassment. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. So, somewhere, someone needs to show us what is going to be spent where. When is 63rd Street going to be paved? When is Truce going to be paved? When is Gregory going to be paved? Just don't tell me you're going to spend money. Show me where. And that's all I've got to say.
All right.
Thank you.
You very much. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Frankie Anderson, and I live in this 5th district. And I have just a couple of comments for consideration. I'm starting to pay more attention now because I'm retired and I can go to the webpage and look. But one of the things I want to keep or put on your mind is the level of street trash in our neighborhoods, 5th district specifically, but it's all over the city. So some plan other than the neighborhood cleanup dates, you know, we have them in the spring and the fall, but something that is citywide driven. In other words, trash bins, decorative, so if people want to dump, they can basketball hoop it into a spot in places that people, just something other than get with your neighborhood association and on this Saturday, we're gonna all clean up or whatever, something more than that. You know, we used to have dumpsters where you could go recycle or you can put things, we don't have that anymore. So if the city went through whatever planning process and created something for people to deposit or something other than nothing. I will be looking at the budget more closely so I could be a bit more prepared for what might be a suggestion or a correction. But it's something that has just been bothering me, and I'm finally, I've done 311, great. But as a city, we need something that's just a bit more effective. And it's not, it's out of the box. In other words, it could be like Kansas City, the clean city, and it's from Riverfront all the way out to Bannister Mall, and we become known as that. So when it comes to getting the conventions and the big events to come, we're not just focused on the commercial area, but we're saying our whole city is clean. And then my final comment, along with what the young man that just said, on this sheet, it's great, but I was not sure about what the goals were. And so I said, well, maybe I'll just go to the website, or if I look in the big book, and I will do that, but if I knew on here that the 5-year plan goals were this, that would give me a better perspective just coming in kind of cold. So thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Is there anyone else? How are you?
Good. How are you doing today?
I'm well. Go right ahead.
I'm Matt Sosa. I'm a 4th District resident. I want to thank you today. I didn't plan on speaking, but my day-to-day job is a data scientist, so I'm a numbers guy. And the point of that role is to try to be proactive and predictive, right? How can you look at data and actually see what's coming and get in front of it? When you set a budget, you're sort of putting the outlines around what can or can't happen, right? Everybody knows that once this drops, that really sets the ground rules for the rest of the year. So as you review this for final approval, I want you to just take a look at where do you really want the city to go. I'm looking at the general fund graph, and my observation is 66% for police and fire. I'm not questioning whether or not that is out of bounds for a city of our size and our style or anything like that, but 66% of the budget is to what is typically a reactive department, right? Not as much proactive work as the rest of those. Now, a 10% shift in that allocation, 6%, 6.6%, right? That's larger than general services, larger than municipal court, blows away administration and finance, neighborhoods and housing, right? So as you say, well, what do we do to set the future of Kansas City as you approve this year on year on year? Take a hard look at the KPIs that the police and fire departments state or how they tell you what they need, and understand the effectiveness of those KPIs, and find out if any of those dollars can move from that reactive side to the more proactive side for our city. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else?
I just have an announcement, a solution to the 4963 woman talking about development. There is a proposed ordinance 88-505-12, which will require public engagement between developers and neighborhoods. And so it won't be just a recommendation, it won't be just, could you please? It will actually be an ordinance and it will be enforceable. So if anybody has any questions about that, I'll be here.
All right, thank you, Rihanna.
I brought it to your attention because I want council to vote for it.
All right, very well. Anyone else who has a comment on the budget? Going once, going twice. I know that I'm making you wait. Sold. All right. Thank you all very much for your various comments. We really appreciate them. As we do normally, we'll give some time for closing comments from our colleagues ladies first, right? All right. Councilwoman Cannon.
Thank you. First, I'd like to begin by apologizing for being a little delayed this morning, but I'm happy to see the room is full of people, and I have an affinity for the Health Commission discussion because as co-chair of it, I get to see the impact of all the work that we're doing in the areas that are really prevention and intervention. And so any investment in public health is an investment. I mean, any funding to public health is an investment. And we have to begin to take a different approach at how we look at it. To Brenda's comment about every year having to come and fight to protect and preserve health levy dollars and funding the health department. It's true, and a lot of it is because the shared values has not resonated from the top. And so we have to have a different dialogue at the leadership level about what is important of how we invest our dollars in Kansas City, whether it's public health, infrastructure improvements, preserving housing stock. We have to shift from this reactive mode of operation and where we're just triaging and begin to make some strategic investments in long-term success in this city, because it all goes together. But I think that so many of the things that we discussed today really go back to this council setting priorities, and even the next council setting priorities with the city manager, because the budget that we are looking at right now is the one that the manager and the mayor provided, and it reflects their values. And these meetings are an opportunity for you all to share your input and for us to be able to support those positions as well as we go forward. And I think we've got some really good input over time. To Nancy's comment about the Marlboro Playground, we've been talking about this since Christmas or before Christmas, but this is another example of how when decisions are made from the staff level and then the council finds out about it after the fact, and then we're left to try to figure out how to close the gaps, which is what we're doing with the health department as well. So when you talk about transparency and processes, it has to happen. And, you know, I've served on this council now for going on 4 years, and Mayor Pro Tem's been there for 8. I mean, you have to really be there all the time to stay abreast of these things that are going on, because by the time you find out about it, it's always a little too late, and you have to try to catch up. But I appreciate all the advocacy around the important issues. I think we heard consistently today about the importance of investing in prevention and interventions, whether it be safety, health, or infrastructure. We've got to begin to do that, and I look forward to being able to make suggestions that reflect those values in this budget. But we all got a lot of places to be today, so I won't belabor any of these points. But I encourage you all to stay engaged in this process. We'll be voting on the final budget, I think, next week.
Thursday.
Yeah, on Thursday. So if you don't feel like everybody, because there's a lot of people missing today, this was an add-on, send your emails and make your recommendations so that we can get some buy-in on some of these things. Some of them are new, but many of them are not. But I want to make sure they're formally provided to all of our peers so that we can have them considered. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilman Barnes.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I don't know if I guess it's on now.
You're on.
I want to thank you all as well in terms of coming out to the meeting. I just do hope that you all understand that we have difficult decisions to make in terms of if we remove something from one budget to add to another budget, that's something someone else has been advocating for, and we do listen when you advocate. And I will definitely say that. Just want to mention the gentleman with the Iowa State shirt on. Well, I'm a K-State graduate, so you know that I'm turning a deaf ear to whatever you said. Yeah, because of last night. But anyway, but in all reality and seriousness, you know, you mentioned removing 10% of the budget from public safety. Well, you know, we just before you came up, there were folks saying, well, we need to add more people to public safety. So that means adding dollars there. So it's a juggling game that we really have to, you know, put our hearts and minds into to get an understanding of what will be best for the city. And I think we all understand the need for the public health and our health department, and you know, and I think we'll look for ways in trying to restore some of that money. Don't know where it would come from, but we'll actually, you know, take some time out to try to juggle some things around. But I want to thank you all for coming out and really have an understanding that we do understand that, you know, you don't just come to advocate for things just because you know want something to happen. That it's something that's important to the city. So thanks for coming out.
All right, thank you, Councilman Barnes. I'll just make a few comments so you can go enjoy whatever parade you intend to go to today. But I did want to mention a couple things. On the interfund borrowing, Brad, we're required by charter to refill. If we take from the water department to handle some of our cash needs, that has to be restored. And I'm hoping that there is someone from the budget office who might be able to go through with you how that has been done. And I'll corral whoever I have to corral to help you on that one. But we are required to do that. And we do that because it's borrowing like anywhere else. And it's a cheaper form of borrowing for us, but we are required to put that money back, and so we can help you with that if you'd like after this is over. And thank you for talking about the auditor's office. No one ever comes in for the auditor's office, and I don't see Doug Jones here, so someone tell Doug Jones that someone came to advocate for him. So thank you for doing that. I also wanted to speak to what was mentioned. Mr. James, related to the goals and how they are achieved. You know, the annual budget is a snapshot of what we're doing, but there is kind of a cycle of things that we do. So later this year, we will be doing our 5-year planning that will go through those goals in more detail. But also, for any of you who just can't get enough of Channel 2, and I know that there are many of you out there. We do a KC Stat meeting every single month, and within KC Stat, we get all of those numbers and metrics that I think you were trying to speak to. And so the idea is you produce a 5-year plan that sets you on kind of your long-term course. The annual budget is a snapshot of that 5-year plan, and then KC Stat is where the action is as far as metrics, how you're achieving those metrics, which then goes back and feeds into this whole process. So if you haven't seen some of that, I want to get you connected up with that because I think that'll speak to that for you. But I do want to also mention the general fund. And when I came in 2011, the amount of money that went to public safety was lower than it is today. And part of the reason why it has grown over time is we continue to pay the pensions that we are obligated to pay. And then we have collective bargaining agreements where we are obligated to spend a certain amount of money. So I never want to give anyone the idea that there is no maneuverability, but I also want to say that there's limitation. And those limitations are kind of placed in there. And to Councilman Barnes' point, and I will tell you not only today, but in every forum I go to, and I think Councilwoman Kennedy can substantiate this, everyone's asking about public safety and how can we get more. And so I just want, when it comes to 319 square miles, which is our city, and covering it, it's tough. And that's where manpower comes in. But a lot of this is that pension chunk that we are obligated to pay, so just so you know. Beyond that, I could talk about this all day long, but I'm not going to do that. But I do want to thank all of you for attending today. I want to thank the budget staff and the communication staff, and if you would help me give them a round of applause. Or snap, as the case may be. I've become much older than I thought I was. But at any rate, I want to thank them because they are the ones that have put this on, and they do a great job putting what you've seen together, the documents together, and this presentation. So thank you all. If you have any questions, we'll be around. Staff will be around. But have a wonderful and pleasant day. And we will be voting on this Thursday. So thank you all very much.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.